Hey, quick question. What do these jobs have in common? Accountant, carpenter, beautician, electrician, photographer, graphic artist, interior designer, choreographer, writer, chef, seamstress. They all work in the Oklahoma film industry. And there's a place for you to join the action. Learn more at filmmusic.org/get started.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the JR Now weekly webinar. We've got a great lineup for us today. We've got, we're talking to Oklahoma film and music industry folks. We've got Tava Sofsky with the Oklahoma Film and Music Office. Let me get her up. We've got Todd Greenlee with Homefront Pictures. We've got Alex Greenlee with Homefront Pictures, and we have Richard James, and Richard is with the Oklahoma Film and Music Academy and Green Pasture Studios. So we want to thank Oklahoma Film and Music for sponsoring us today. And let me get Joe on board. Joe is the interim editor of the Journal Record, and he will moderate the panel today. So thank you all for joining us, and I'll let Joe take it away.
Thank you, Sarah. And thanks everybody for joining us on JR Now. I'm excited about this program today. Can I just ask one opening question? Why is Oklahoma so special when it comes to films and filmmakers? What is the appeal? Tava, I'd like to start with you. And Tava, just so you know, you're muted.
Here we come. Here we are. Okay. So I will answer that as short and direct as possible. I will say Oklahoma is open. And there's so many meanings behind that. We are open for business. We have wide open spaces. Our people's hearts are open. We're innovative. We're open to new ideas. We're open to whether you're a Californian or a Brit or an Aussie or a Texan, we are open. So that's what it goes back to.
And I assume that goes for New Yorkers as well. Is that also correct?
Sure,
Tava?
I forgot. Yes, New York. I love New Yorkers. New Yorkers.
That's good. And Todd and Alex Greenlee, can you give me some sense of what you think makes it so special for the films you're making?
Well, I'll take this. First, it's like just the community you have in Oklahoma is so unique, and just everyone is just so caring, you know, and you don't really get that in California and Los Angeles. There's a lot of egos here, and I just feel like how caring and giving people are in Oklahoma is just truly something one of a kind. And it makes the whole filmmaking process can be super stressful just feel like you're at home. And I feel like that's why we called it Homefront Pictures, is just because it just really feels like a home to us. Even though we live in both Todd and I currently live in Los Angeles, it's just like we've made 2 features now, and we've made them both in Oklahoma just because it's like we chose to. Like we could have shot it here in California, but we chose to do it in Oklahoma just because we would have had no other place we would have wanted than Oklahoma.
Todd, tell us about the one you just directed.
Yeah, it's called All Eyes. It's about it's a survival thriller about a recently disgraced podcast host who decides to do an interview about this farmer who claims to have a monster living in the woods behind his house. And we shot it in Hobart, Oklahoma, and it's pretty fun. It takes a lot of cool twists and turns, but we shot it on a farm, kind of like in the country. So it was a lot of fun to do.
And I don't think a movie's ever been shot in Hobart before. So that was like,
so yeah. And it's such a cool landscape.
I think so.
It was a lot of fun. And the farm we shot on was just like, had so many possibilities. It was really cool. Yeah.
And I mean, going back to community, the people in Hobart were so friendly. And I mean, it was just, we could have not asked for a better group of people. Like when there's a scene, there's a shot a scene we shot at the town square, and we were just able to get extras so easily and quickly.
Yeah.
Like it was like, we were just like, people were just more than happy to help out. And like Hobart reached out to us like a few weeks before and was like, when are y'all shooting? And they made sure the whole town square was clean. They had all the fire trucks out.
Yeah, like the yard was mowed and everything.
Everything was mowed. They had on they have this old movie theater in Hobart, and they had on the billboard, on the marquee, they had "Welcome Homefront Pictures."
That's
I was like, guys, this is like you don't get that in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, it's very like get in and leave. Like it's very like get going attitude, and just that laid back, like we're here to help y'all whatever y'all need. It was just like, man,
yeah,
super lucky.
Right. Richard, what's your Oklahoma experiences working here?
Well, I think there are two parts we have to look at when we look at that question of what makes Oklahoma so special for filmmakers. And we've got to split that up between before COVID and after COVID, because I think every industry that we can imagine has been affected by COVID, and it's put two different things on the map, right? First one is just obviously, I'm not born and raised in Oklahoma, y'all. So from England, and my wife and I spent 15 years in Los Angeles, same as Alex and Todd. My wife had a deal at Paramount Pictures. I wrote for Walt Disney and Lionsgate and Warner Brothers. And we toured America looking for a place to bring up our kids. And Oklahoma was not on that list because all I knew about Oklahoma was the musical. And I could sing that really well, but that was about it. And we landed here by accident, and within 24 hours, 48 hours, all four of us said, oh my goodness, this place is amazing. We love it. And we moved out here 4 months later. That was 2 years ago. And exactly what Alex just said, the people are so friendly and welcoming. And there's a sense of, if you have an idea, if there's something you want to do, you can do it in Oklahoma. And I know Lieutenant Governor's new branding campaign really plays to that, right? So we have a small burgeoning film industry here that is growing very, very quickly. And there's a lot of support, both in terms of when we look at Tava's office from a government level and the representatives in the House and the Senate. But there's also a groundswell of great crew. And that works really well before COVID, right? So you've got an industry that's bubbling up and you've got people beginning to find it. Post-COVID, we're in a completely different situation in that LA's locked down, New York's locked down. People are looking for places where if there is a problem with the virus, you are more spread out. But you've got to go to a location in America that allows you to be spread out, but has cast and crew readily available. And Oklahoma is at that perfect injunction, that perfect point where it can actually absorb a large amount of productions coming in and support that and see its industry grow in a way where Georgia did like 10 years ago. So we're at that perfect inflection point to take advantage of so much more content being able to be made and money flooding into the industry for Oklahoma because of everything that Tava's been doing for the last 10 years.
Wow, that's wild. Tava, tell us, what kind of cooperation have you got from the state level, the political level, but also let's try to address the business community, investments, and that type of thing. Can you talk about that for us? And you're muted at the moment.
Yeah, I just was giving you a
done.
Moment.
We're handling the technology well, guys.
We're getting good at this. Yeah, we're getting real good. So we have had wonderful support over time, over the years, just to kind of put everything in context and in perspective. So our office, the Oklahoma Film and Music Office, we are a division currently under the Department of Tourism. So we are state government. And we work really closely because our industry, as we'll talk more about on this call, and sort of the main core of the conversation is we're providing jobs and we're recruiting people to come here and work, like the Greenlees are going to come home soon, like I did 7 years ago from Los Angeles myself. I came home, and there is a place for people in our expanding workforce. But to put this in context, the state has been investing in the film and television industry for 40 years. So in 2019, just last year, the Oklahoma Film Commission, without the music side, opened. It's 1979. We opened, and I probably don't have to tell everyone, but we hosted the first 20 years of being in office open. We hosted pictures like Francis Ford Coppola's The Outsiders, Rumblefish, Tex. Those were written by Tulsa native S.E. Hinton, right? Back in those days, in the 70s and 80s, movies were made where the stories were scripted. And, Twister, and I mean, so many classics and just really great movies were made here. And then 20 years ago, everything shifted. So Canada introduce the very first piece of legislation offered an incentive to get people out of Hollywood and the bigger, filming hubs, and they wanted their business. So they created the first incentive. Oklahoma was right. We were prepared in 2001. We had our first incentive, and the title of it's called Compete with Canada Act. So there you go. I mean, we were saying, no, we don't want this business to leave the U.S. Come to Oklahoma. And so since then, I mean, next year we're almost to 20 years of our office being trusted and administering a well-structured, I will say, a very well-structured, we get compliments all the time about how strong our incentive is internally and externally. And so what that incentive has been allowing us to do is to build an industry, to build, the goal of that was to enhance our state's image, to get a little more people to turn and look at Oklahoma, to create jobs, and to help small businesses either open or expand. We've just seen great success. And then cut to just in 2014, we doubled our program. So our office then offered $5 million in cash rebate per year to productions that were spent, that were filming in Oklahoma. They got a 35 to 37% cash rebate on whatever they spent in state. And that was renewed for 10 years, right? So that the program that sort of rebirthed was really a key turning point. It happened to be the same month that I started in this role, but it was a real big turning point because perceptionally, internally, and externally, people said, oh, Oklahoma is, back on the map. We've got a strong long-term program. There's certainty, there's longevity, and that's what people want, to know is that they can keep their business here or they can move their business here. So we've seen an increase. I mean, I did the math the other day and it was kind of mind blowing. It's like a 2,600% increase in spend, in direct spend. That's not economic impact. That's direct spend from like $4 million was spent in 2014 to now over $75 million per year spent in this state just making movies. So we're just growing exponentially. The workforce is expanding, and really excited about the direction that we're going, and happy to share some more through the conversation about that.
Oh, sure. But that's kind of an amazing growth rate.
It's great. And last year, you're back to your initial question for me, was what does the state support look like? And we've had support, of course, over the years. When any kind of program is starting and stopping and kind of ebbing and flowing, it just provides uncertainty. So we have been able to shift mindsets. Again, you have to always think of internally, our state legislators. I mean, we all have a responsibility to make sure that the dollars that are coming into this state are staying into this state. And we have proof of that. We have economic impact studies and all of these things. We have a whole new section on our website at okfilmmusic.org on the economic impact. It'll tell you all those numbers I was talking about. It'll give you the growth numbers of spend and wages and number of jobs and all of that. And so it's really testament. And just a couple of years ago, we had the opportunity to travel alongside some of our state legislators. And then when Lieutenant Governor came into office, he got to experience Georgia and Los Angeles, between, just really seeing the infrastructure just completely skyrocket in Georgia. And they have a $9 billion a year industry. I mean, it's unprecedented. And then in Los Angeles, getting to really, hear from the studio executives and the filmmakers out there, the creators, to learn more of their needs. And so our state legislature doubled our incentive program last year. And it's interesting because last year the total spend was $75 million in 1 year. And we're looking at 2020, even during a pandemic, Richard, 2020 and the year 2021, we're gonna experience over $200 million spent in this state with just films and that's just films and TV shows utilizing this program. That's not, I mean, the Greenlee brothers, you guys, when you made your film, you didn't tap into the state incentive. Mm-hmm. And so there's even more, but it's really positive. We're in a really great place, as Richard said too.
Richard, please elaborate on that, why we're in such a great place.
Well, I think what you've got to remember is that we're going through an unprecedented time in the entertainment industry at the moment. And entertainment hasn't had a shift like this since Charlie Chaplin, right? Because what we're seeing all these studios who traditionally would send out and distribute their films and their TV shows and then have control over it. And then along comes this wonderful thing that I'm sure we all subscribe to called Netflix. And Netflix goes and buys all this content from all the studios and all the TV networks and puts it onto this platform that we pay $14 a month for. And in the last 12, 18 months, all of the networks, Disney, NBC, HBO, have turned around and said, oh my goodness, we don't want to give all this to Netflix. We want to create our own streaming services. So you've got all these streaming services launching, and they all need a lot more content. So we sat down with Tava and the Lieutenant Governor, and we took them out to Los Angeles, where Tava had then set up some fantastic meetings with some studio heads. So we sat down with CBS. CBS traditionally will make perhaps 25 TV shows a year. Well, when they have a streaming service, they're going to have to make 3 times that. And that is, everyone is having to make that, including Netflix, because we've got used to this massive library on Netflix. Well, all of that content is coming off Netflix, so Netflix has to make more. So if you look at the top 6 producers of content, last year they spent $36 billion.
It's with a B.
That's with a B. That's a big number, $36 billion. Now, a couple of things have happened because of COVID. Because of COVID, we're all doing what? We're sitting at home watching more content, which means that Netflix's algorithm says that instead of making this many shows a year, we have to make a lot more. And so the amount of production that is needing to be made is going up and up and up. So much so that studios across North America, across the world, are all fully booked up for the next couple of years. Crew, that top level crew that everyone likes to go to Georgia for, or you've perhaps got a couple of levels of crew in somewhere like a New Mexico, have all been tapped up. So we're at a position now where producers are actively looking for how do we get out of these major metropolitan areas, and how do we go to an area that is supporting film and able to grow quickly. And quite frankly, there aren't that many places in North America that can actually service that the way that Oklahoma can. And when it services that, we're not just talking about cameramen and women and sound people. We've got the film studio that's right in front of me over there. You can't see it. And we've got welders in there at the moment. We've got carpenters. We've got, I've got some bookkeepers. The amount of people that this industry employs is humongous. And there is a massive place for everyone, no matter what experience they got or what industry they come from, to come in and fill this massive increase in jobs that is needed at a time when there's record unemployment in the US. And Oklahoma is doing really, really well as far as unemployment rates go. But there is an enormous amount of jobs that can be filled because the entertainment industry is having to spend more and more money, and they're having to look for new places to put it. It's similar to a Tesla. When we look at what happened with Tulsa, and everyone was getting excited about Tulsa being able to build the truck, it's very similar in that we've got billions of dollars from the entertainment industry looking for a place to spend its money and employ people and set up infrastructure, things that are going to make a massive difference on a state where you can diversify an economy. And if we look at Oklahoma's economy and we look at the top two, we're looking at oil and gas and airlines, which have struggled during the pandemic. Entertainment industry hasn't and never does during a recession. It goes up because it's a cheap form of people enjoying themselves whilst they don't have much money. And to give you an idea on that, Oklahoma itself, we talk about the Compete with Canada Act. It's also that we have to compete with other states around the US. And if we look at Oklahoma, Oklahoma on average spends about $27.5 million a month in consuming content. And at the moment, a lot of people are going to some other states to spend that money to produce it. Well, wouldn't it be great if it was 27.5 million a month that was actually being spent here in Oklahoma? Oklahomans' hard-earned money was being spent here on those hotel rooms, on those construction jobs, on the film crew jobs, the cameramen and the camera women and the accountants. And so that's part of that support that we're seeing from legislators at the moment. And when you think we had that $50 million bill pass the House earlier on in the year before the pandemic, which meant that it got pushed so it couldn't go through the Senate. We have a lot of support on a government level to say, let's diversify our economy and let's make this a really big industry.
It sounds like you have that this is a gigantic economic engine for the state.
Absolutely.
And also an employment opportunity, but I should also say it's an investment opportunity for some, isn't it? Can you guys address that?
Well, imagine if like it's just going to take like one huge TV series to like go to Oklahoma, and imagine that like as something like Breaking Bad or something. What Breaking Bad's done for Albuquerque. It's just going to take one show like series like that to just that like kind of like it's almost, it just kind of goes from that to you got the tourism that comes because of this show, like the fans and everything. But in order to do that, you need to lay the foundation. You know, it's an investment. You got to lay the foundation to allow, you know, productions to come in, and that includes like needing sound stages, and which for the longest time, I mean, hasn't really been a thing in Oklahoma, and now that's becoming a thing. And I was so excited when I saw that Oklahoma City was getting a soundstage. I was like, finally. I've been like talking to my brother for years. I was like, somebody just needs to like. I was joking. There's a Crossroads Mall that's just abandoned. I'm like, someone needs to turn that into a studio. It's big enough. It's smack dab in the middle. Like it's all the space that isn't being used. There's plenty of parking. There's like, it's close to the, you know, you're not too far from the airport. But one thing I think is so great about Oklahoma is like, it is smack dab in the middle of the country. And so it's like, you're so close. You're not too far from New York. You're not too far from LA. You're like from Texas. You have all your New Mexico. You're so close to everything.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
a lot of people don't realize that the landscape's very diverse.
Yeah.
Like my capstone project for college, I actually shot in every corner of the state just to show like how diverse it was. And you have like deserts, you have plains, you have forests, you have like, and all in the span of like
waterfalls. Like there's so many
in the span of like 2-hour drives, you know, and it's crazy. Like a lot of people don't really realize that is Oklahoma has a lot to offer. Like our first feature was shot at Grand Lake, and that looks like it could be like New York or
Upstate.
like California.
Big Bear.
But then our new movie All Eyes was shot in Hobart, and that's like it's like farmland, and it's like it's hard to believe that both movies were shot in the same state because they look completely different. And like a lot of people don't really realize that is Oklahoma has like so much to offer, even like location wise, you know, and like and the Oklahoma Film Office is great at like they have this like location database, and it's really great to use that. Yeah, it's like it's pretty cool resource.
It's just one tool for your toolkit, Todd and Alex.
Yeah.
And
it's pretty awesome.
We use it all.
we've been using that since like way before when it started. We were like, really
yeah, we got kind of connected with the film office when we were like 15. We were making short films, and even then we were like reaching out to them and being like, hey, we want a location and we want all this. And I mean, they've just been amazing. Like it's just the response and like how everybody just wants to help. It's just been.
We're the connectors. I say that all the time. I mean, we're connecting one dot at a time. I mean, we're connecting people like you to locations. You know, Richard, the task force we got to serve on together last year with Lieutenant Governor at the helm. You know, we got to connect you guys as being newer to the state with all kinds of different locations, as far as, you know, even just with, I know you're going to talk later about the Oklahoma Film and TV Academy at Green Pastures, but, you know, even connecting people, that's what this industry is all about. And then externally, you know, we're connecting to just people, like you say, to our beautiful landscapes and locations and people. It really goes, it always goes back to the people, I think. But to Todd's point, we have 12 ecoregions, and you can pretty much get anything and everything that you need here, and that is the truth. And so we definitely encourage anyone interested, just browse through. I mean, I grew up in Ada, Oklahoma, went to OU, like the Greenlee brothers, moved straight to LA because then there wasn't an industry here. And, you know, that's just how it was. I mean, there just was not an industry when I graduated. I had no choice. I loved Oklahoma, didn't want to leave. And then cut to 20 years later, I came home and this job kind of found me. But, you know, we have, now I speak to students everywhere, and just spoke to Richard's first group of students the other day, a couple weekends ago, and said, you don't have to leave Oklahoma. Study, learn here, get on the job. You know, there's internships available every day here, and then stay and be a part of this incredible growth. And Alex, you were talking about a TV series. I just wanted to, you know, just dangle a couple of things in front of you. I mean, we've had opportunity, and we've had portions of big television series. We had American Gods, which is an enormous, I mean, it's $100 million a season, you know, TV show. Yeah. And we could have had that. This picture in my background, they have this exact shot in season 1, actually in the pilot episode. It looks just like this. It's just a different car. And they came in and they scouted for like a whole week. They scouted. They told me when we were taking them to the airport in Tulsa, they said they lost count of how many different looks that they could get for that one TV series. Now, mind you, American Gods, written by Neil Gaiman, it is a traveling road series. So they needed like 25 different city looks and urban area, you know, urban and rural areas. And they lost count. They could get it all here practically. The piece that was missing was the soundstage. And so here we are. That was 4 years ago. We've just been working kind of from the bottom up, top down, from every direction, trying to build those more infrastructure. So it's really exciting. The different soundstage, they're popping up everywhere. And Richard, I mean, you haven't had a chance to talk about Green Pastures and how that came about. And, you know, because you were the first to open your doors, and obviously we're going to have the Cox Center with Prairie Surf Studios coming real soon, and that's already built. The Cox Center Convention Center, that's crazy. But what you guys are doing in Spencer, Oklahoma, right on the border of OKC, is phenomenal.
Richard, please. Yes,
we're really excited by everything going on here. We're about 18 minutes from downtown Oklahoma City on the east side. We have a 12-acre campus here, 52,000 square foot of building. We've got 2 sound stages. We were due to open just as COVID happened. And then that put a spanner in the works with everything from getting the soundproofing material down from China and all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff, put a hold on it. And we are actually due to open our doors officially in about 6 weeks. But having said that, the demand has been so much that we've had films coming in here already. So when you look at the space that we've got a couple of, we've got a 6,000 square foot soundstage that's a complete soundstage. And so when you think about a soundstage, it needs to have very, very thick walls so you can't hear anything outside. It needs to have sound treatment on the inside of those walls so that you don't get an echo, which if anyone's ever been into a gymnasium when they've gone on to a school or what have you, there's a massive echo in these big buildings. So you have to treat all the walls and treat the ceiling. You need massive doors so you can drive trucks in and offload your sets. You need then the support facilities. So you need a construction warehouse. You need makeup and hair. You need production offices. So we have all that here. And it's all pretty much state of the art. We have 10 gigabytes up and down, which means that you can transfer these big files to wherever you need to do your post-production. And then we are alongside of that, because when we took the Lieutenant Governor Tava and Melanie Garneau and myself went to Los Angeles, we sat down with DreamWorks, we sat down with Warner Brothers, and we said, what does Oklahoma need to get the big investment, right? We're doing really well, we're growing really strong, but when we look at that $36 billion, and you guys are committing more and more money because of the streaming wars, how do we get billions of dollars being committed to Oklahoma? And they said, sound stages. We need many sound stages here. So the Cox Convention Center is great. They are massive scale studios. And those sort of studios really are sort of Marvel level, those Marvel movies, you know, when you're dealing with a 35,000 square foot soundstage, and those sort of movies are spending $100 million in a state. And then you need the smaller stages, and then you need all the locations like Tava was chatting there. And what I would say is that if anyone is watching this now, and they have a business, property, a home that could be good for filming, go to the fantastic website of the Oklahoma Film and Music, and you can submit those locations so that then Tava's office will look at it and deem whether it's appropriate for filming in, and they can then list that on the site so that Oklahomans across Oklahoma can make money from letting these houses out. The other side that we saw is that we need more crew, and we need crew quickly. And this isn't just something for Oklahoma. As I said earlier, because we have this massive amount of production being made, crew all across the world are being utilized, and it's very, very difficult to find trained crew. So what we've done is we've launched the Oklahoma Film and TV Academy. I'm now wearing hoodies because of this. And what we're doing is it's a short course training program with the idea to train skilled below the line, which means we're not training people like Todd and Alex, those sort of directors, the screenwriters, because quite frankly, there's a lot of them out there, and there's a lot of productions, and there's a lot of people like Alex and Todd who are saying, I want to shoot in Oklahoma, but I need the great crew. Right. So what we do is there's a short course training program where you come in for 2 weekends, and initially we train you as a PA. And a lot of people think, production assistant, surely I can just turn up on set and do that.
I would have loved that when I was younger.
Yeah. Right, me too.
Well, we go through everything from, if you are using a union cast, then union cast have to break every 6 hours. But there's a trick that when they get onto set, if you gave them a croissant and a coffee, within 2 hours, that resets the clock. So it gives you another 2 hours worth of filming. So it saves the production money. And really, that's on a production assistant to work that out, who's looking after what's called the first team. So you have all these production assistant positions, like a first team PA, a background PA, a paperwork PA, a distro PA, a walkies PA. And so we train all those PAs. So we have professional PAs that can work on productions that are coming into town. And that's level 1. Level 2 is then specialists. So let's say you're a carpenter, and you've loved being a carpenter or in construction for most of your life, but you'd love to work in the movies. And so what we'll do is we will take you with your existing experience, and we'll show you how to apply that in the film and television industry. We'll teach you what you really need to know and what the differences are between building a house and building a set. And we'll do that with accountants. We'll do that with bookkeepers, payroll clerks. We'll do that with transportation drivers, so that people can come in and over 2 weekends, so if you've got a job at the moment, you can still come in for those weekend courses and we can get you trained up. Now, we started this, the Oklahoma Film and TV Academy fully kicked off with all its courses last month. And I'm pleased to say that everyone who graduated out of that is now working as a PA in the film industry. And we
in Oklahoma?
In Oklahoma. And we cannot keep up with the amount of people phoning and saying, have you got more PAs? Have you got PAs that we can bump up the ladder quickly because there's not enough crew?
I actually had a guy here in LA who's like a head art director, and he actually reached out to me because they were shooting something in Oklahoma last year, and he was like, we can't, like, we need PAs. We need, but not just set PAs, not just office PAs. They need like set deck, art PA. They need for the whole range of positions.
People who are outside of the industry, can you guys explain why this is so important a job?
Well, quite frankly, if you think about a military operation, right? We're going in and on a big movie, you could be spending $100,000, $500,000 a day. And so any loose link in that, let's say a PA is what's called a first team PA, and their job is to be with the leading actors and make sure the leading actors get to set and make sure the leading actors sign all their paperwork. Sounds really simple. But if that leading actor for some reason goes missing or goes off to a restroom and can't make their way back to set, that suddenly costs us perhaps $20,000. So every single role in the film industry is so important. The driver driving a director, you take a wrong turn off a freeway and the director gets there half an hour late, we've wasted $20,000. These are really important positions, and there are so many available out there now that we just can't fill. So anyone who wants to come,
you want them in Oklahoma. You don't want to have to get them from LA or anywhere else. It's like you want to bring put the LA in Oklahoma, which is like you want Oklahoma to be the place where you think of like, oh, this is like the new LA. This is like the new
Yes.
And I actually do see a lot of PAs, especially moving out of LA, especially because of now with COVID, like they can't afford to live here. Like it's too expensive. Whereas Oklahoma is a little more affordable.
Yes.
And it's just now you just need those opportunities. And like, it's amazing to me that what Richard is doing. I mean, I didn't really know much about that. And I'm like, that's so cool. That is really, really cool.
Yeah. And Alex and I have both worked as PAs on like Netflix movies, HBO movies, stuff like that. So we understand what it's like to be a PA, and it's a very difficult job to do. And I would have never in a million years thought, like Oklahoma, like would like, have those jobs available, which is pretty cool.
When we were in high school, the only things coming in were, I mean, occasionally you would get a few movies coming in. I think when we were in high school, it was The Killer Inside Me, I think was one that was popular.
Yeah.
And it was like, everyone is, of course, you're going to have everybody who does work gravitating towards that production. So it's like somebody like us, we wouldn't be able to get on, and it just seemed like, for me, I'm like, but that only came once in a while. And because again, there wasn't any sound stages. You don't really have that enough for more productions to come in because they're all already kind of absorbing everything that's already around that we do have.
Can I just add to that, for Joe, kind of your question about like educating the people that maybe just really don't understand what are all these jobs. I mean, Richard did a great job of talking about some of the key roles. There are over 30 different departments on a movie, and depending on the size of the movie, those could be, 2, 4, 3, 4, 5 layers deep, or like the big movie that we're hosting now that's going to be filming in 2021, which is Marty Scorsese's film Killers of the Flower Moon. I mean, their location department is like a dozen people deep.
Because there's also second units. There's probably second units.
Yes, exactly. There's a second unit, and they're doing more of the establishing shots or the stunt. Usually the action sequences are done with the stunt doubles on the second unit, etc. But yeah, you think about how many, a smaller independent movie, like a $2 million movie may only need 2 to 3 people deep in locations. But with over 30 different departments, we have built out, like 2020 has been our year to really educate and build out kind of just educating people on this topic right here, because it is so, as Richard said, it is so important that we continue to grow. So I would encourage, if you're out there and you don't know anything about film, Sarah showed us the great sizzle reel. It's our recruitment video that we're pushing out to all the schools statewide. We're just focusing internally right now, Alex, but we'll eventually be pushing this to other jurisdictions outside of Oklahoma. But we want our Oklahomans who are, so the departments are like cosmetology, construction, carpentry, transportation. We need therapists.
Also,
we might all need those, but we need
like food. You have to feed a crew. And
yes.
Stuff like that is like catering, crafty.
But also think about, like, there's you also have post-production. So
all the post-production.
You have all these, you can open all these post-production houses, and like there in LA we have Photocam, which is like the massive one. And so you can have that, you can have places that sell like grip, graphing tape, and all that stuff, all the equipment,
all the expendables. We need everybody. And so we're really, as a unit here, we're saying, we're open for business. There is a place for you. It does not matter what you're doing. I can almost, we have nurses that are just tired of going in to the hospital, and we've literally been able to connect them, recruit them, and have them pivot from their job maybe they've been doing as an EMT or an RN for years, and now they're working in a brand new unit called the COVID Health and Safety Unit, which just was born. There's always been, but we've always needed set medics. We need a Band-Aid here. They tripped and stubbed their toe. Like we need, there's all those things.
Also teachers. You could have a teacher.
Teachers, that's a great one.
Because film is a very collaborative thing. Like there's music. It's a very visual. There's audio. It's a very collaborative media. So it's a cool thing to like be able to like, get different people to like share their expertise in like construction and art and post-production, and
it's more than the director.
Jobs. They're high-paying jobs. The average job, because we've been, Richard's got Green Pastures, we've got Prairie Surf Studios, we have Red Clay Studios, which is a new initiative and soundstage, like a movie ranch that's coming down the pipeline very soon in Tulsa.
I love it.
And there's some other ones that we can't talk about yet, but we've been doing all this research with the number of jobs and the number of wages to, and how much their sound stages, brick and mortar, are going to have in the state, all over the state. And the average wage is $104,000. Eventually, not the production assistant level, but there are really high paying jobs.
There's so much money in this business. Like it's insane the amount of money.
I've worked on Netflix movies that the crew is like over 200 people, and that's just to actually film the movie or film the show or movie. And beyond that, you have like post-production, you have like sound editing, you have like all that stuff. So
even the production office, you have accounting, you have
distribution.
It's insane, like how many people are.
And I know that when we look at this from a legislative angle, there are times when one of the things that I will hear is that this is all great, but they're part-time jobs. They're not full-time jobs. And I hear that loud and clear. I understand that the entertainment industry often is a gig economy. You're going from gig to gig to gig.
Everyone.
And the great thing is that with the demand at the moment, we actually are in a position where people are going straight from gig to gig to gig. But the analogy to look at that I talk to representatives about is the construction industry, right? When you look at the construction industry, we go in and we're going to build this big bridge, and it's going to take 8 to 9 months, and we're going to have all of these trucks come down, and we're going to have the trailers that they all go in and they have their lunch in and all that sort of stuff. We're going to build this big bridge, and then it's done. And now we're going to go and build something else. And that's very much the way that you need to look at the film industry, is that you have these massive projects come in, you all work, and then you jump onto the next one.
It's like
And then-
construction. It's no
Yes.
different. I mean,
No different.
oil and gas construction, you've got a site, you've got 120 to 150 people for 10 months, and then they go to the next one. I mean, if you know, if we don't have the demand, if we don't have the workforce to support that, they're going to bring people in, and they're going to be heads in beds and hotels in rural Oklahoma or wherever these construction sites are. It's no different. But now I think the difference, the shift, Richard, is with the studios. I mean, they could have minimum 50 people on staff.
Oh, absolutely.
That average of $100,000 a year, right? And
Yeah.
you just keep building and building. And Georgia went from 0 sound stages. The year they enhanced their incentive program, the little shiny object to say, come to Georgia to film, they took off their cap, they removed their sunset. And in 2 years' time, when they did that in 2008, they got their first soundstage in 2010. And now, 1 decade later, they have over 65 certified sound stages and over 100 other sound stages. I mean, so their roots are deep. Those jobs aren't going anywhere. And so it's and you know, right now, I mean, I just got a text right before this webinar from a producer who has an A-list cast lead for his movie. He thought he needed to go to another state. I shouldn't say the other state. He thought he needed to go to the other state, but he said, Tava, I've just produced 2 movies in Oklahoma, and you know, somebody, you know, on the higher level thought that they needed to go to another state, right? A bigger incentive state, let's just say that. And he said, I can't do it. All I can think about when I wake up is the people in Oklahoma. It kind of goes full circle, Joe.
Mhm.
The people is really the attraction and the magnet. And this producer, where we have a call after this, he wants to figure out how he can get his movie here. And we're full, as in we have. This is something to note because I feel like we're kind of getting close to our hour, but
We are,
I
yes.
want to make sure that that I let everybody know that since May 28th, the state of Oklahoma has hosted 16 productions, film and television. One of those was a Disney pilot, TV pilot. We're hoping to get the entire season 1 here. That was made, directed, and written by an Oklahoma native, Sterling Harjo, in the Tulsa area. And we have hosted 16 productions, you guys. There is no other state that is filming right now. There's no other state where the faucets are all flowing. And so there's so much opportunity. And we're starting to see this massive shift from even our office and people Richard's talking to and other, that we're not just recruiting one project at a time anymore. It's like businesses are wanting to move here because there's so much opportunity. So,
And if we look at any other industry at this time, most of them are going through some form of contraction because of what is happening economically
Sure.
on a global level.
mhm.
If we need to look at what industry can Oklahoma look at right now that can increase revenue dramatically for the state, increase the amount of jobs, the number one industry that is on a major growth path is going to be the entertainment industry.
Mhm.
And that can have a massive, massive impact when we know that every state in America and most countries around the world are facing budget problems. This is the number one industry that we really want to attract to spend those billions of dollars that they are raising right now and is unaccounted for. And we are in a perfect position to do it. And it impacts anyone who is directly involved in the entertainment industry, and it impacts everyone in the state because hotels are booked up, you have restaurants being eaten at, you have per diems going and being spent in all the mom and pop stores, and you have money rolling back into the Oklahoma economy to support the Oklahoma infrastructure.
I want to pass along a hello to the Greenlee brothers from Professor Katrina Boyd from
Hey.
Oklahoma University. She says, hi, lovely to see you doing well.
Nice.
That's awesome.
And of course, OU has a major film program that
Yes.
lots of people are coming out of and starring. And as you said, Tava, people head to Los Angeles, and just the way Broadway, you know, the actors want to head to.
Like with Todd and I, like, you know, Todd actually went to New Orleans before he moved to LA, and I moved straight to LA. But I can literally, like, because I can like go all the way back. The reason where I got to where I was as far as like PA was from connections in Oklahoma, and specifically University of Oklahoma. And like, it's like, you don't think of, like, you know, it's like people don't think of, when they think of Oklahoma, they don't first think of film, but I mean, that should be a new thing. That should be the new thing, is like, you think of the film scene.
Oklahoma has a pretty big connection in the film industry. Like, I work with an editor, Carol Littleton. She is from Oklahoma. She did like E.T., the big show, you know, and she's from Oklahoma. So it's like Oklahoma has it's very connected in the industry.
I actually got my first lead to the producer that was he did Rumblefish, and he did Hearts of Darkness. He started on Apocalypse Now with Francis Coppola, was Doug Claiborne. And it was my last week of college, and my professor at the time said, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. I've, you know, sent 200 resumes with like some 1/4-inch reel or whatever from my college work, right? That was all I had. To executives and all that. But I didn't know what I was going to do. And she said, well, there's this guy named Doug Claiborne, and he's from Tulsa, and you should find him. And so I did. And Doug sat down with me, opened up his Rolodex, Hunt Lowry. I mean, the list goes on. Gray Fredrickson, you know, Ian Bryce, all those producers who have made so many amazing films. And so you're right. I mean, all roads they lead to and from Oklahoma. And for the professor, we could say OU, and now the Oklahoma Film and TV Academy. But you know, with Alex and Todd and Adam, your brother, there is a place for you here to join the action, what's happening, and we're growing. And we've been seeing you guys at our Okie roundups. We've been doing every year since I started. And this year was the first year we couldn't, because
it was so sad. Some of my favorite times of the year is the Okie. They go to one year they did it in Malibu, and then one year they did it in Santa Monica. And it's funny because I see all these other people from Oklahoma I only see at that event, because it's so doing their own thing. And
it's pretty awesome.
I'll be like, hey guys, we should hang out sometime. And then but I mean, it's so cool just to see, once you have all the Oklahomans in one room, you're just like, it's something like special about.
And we sing Oklahoma, Richard.
Oh, I love it.
We always sing Oklahoma. It's a blast. It's always cool, like, seeing how everybody's doing.
And I will say, I mean, it's becoming easier to recruit people and businesses that don't maybe have a tie to Oklahoma, like the Janes and their family and their business. It's becoming easier because it's like this veil is lifted off their eyes, and they're really seeing Oklahoma for what it is and what it can be for them and their business. But it's historically been easier to recruit Oklahomans to come home, right? We're boomerangs. Like, we have to come home. And so, you know, to the alums out there with OU, all the schools, and, you know, there's a place for you. And it's interesting because our rebate program incentivizes producers to hire locally, right? They only get the rebate on the local resident wages. But what we've done is we've added, they get the rebate on expatriates' wages, because it's an enticement for them to get the expats to come home, the Oklahomans to come home. And then they get the incentive, they get that rebate on those wages. And so it's all kind of full circle to try to grow the workforce. So
I'm excited to see, like, Oklahoma, like, it's for me the beginning of this new image of Oklahoma. And I'm so excited because it's just like, man, it's what I've been waiting for as being from Oklahoma. It's like the fact we've shot both our features in Oklahoma. I mean, that says everything. I mean,
we
that's
plan to continue doing that. Like, we're probably gonna shoot all of our movies in Oklahoma.
which quick, I want to throw a quick word. Like, we're actually started we launched our crowdfunding campaign for our new feature, All
Cool.
Eyes. We're in post-production, and so we launched the campaign yesterday on Seed and Spark. So if you ever want to check that out.
There you go. That's awesome.
You know what? I just want to ask Richard something. We're running very low on time. And in fact, we've actually gone over, and it's been worth it because it's a great, great conversation. It's been lively. Richard, you and I share something in common, that the only thing that I knew about Oklahoma was the musical before I got there. And what I was amazed about is when I flew in for the first time, how they got the musical right when it came to the people. Realize it premiered in 1943 in New York, and it holds true in that, you know, there are beautiful mornings there, and there are people who, the farmers and the cowmen, really should get along. I guess there's something about the people there that you guys have touched on, and I think that's a great way to end it. Why is it so special that the people in Oklahoma and their businesses, their investors, their educators, all of that have contributed so much to this?
You know, it's an interesting one, looking at what is it about Oklahoma people. And I think if you look at the roots of Oklahoma, you know, we're one of the youngest states in America. And I think that makes a massive impact, because you had a lot of people come here just as you did. And I can say this as an Englishman who came to America and loves the idea of the American dream. I think the American dream is more alive today in Oklahoma than many parts of America, because of how young the state is. And because of then not only how young the state is, but the troubles the state went through. When you look at the mass exodus due to the Dust Bowl, right? It put families on a difficult footing. If you look at I
believe.
Is he frozen?
I think he's frozen.
He is frozen. Oh, he was just getting going.
Yeah, I was good.
And Todd, why not pick it up?
Todd, pick up where you left off.
Well, I mean, for us, Oklahoma has a very strong sense of community. Alex kind of touched on it a little bit. There's something you get in Oklahoma that you don't really get in LA. Like in LA, you'll try to get a location and people are very like, oh, this could be like a lot of money. But in Oklahoma, you try to get the same location and people realize, hey, how can we help? You know, like can we be extras? Can we do like whatever? And it's like there's just something about it that, you know, like, you don't really
I've tried to think about, because anytime I run into somebody from, and I know we're running short, but every time I run into somebody from Oklahoma in LA, you immediately know they're from Oklahoma. It's weird. Like I've worked with people on big TV shows that were from Oklahoma, and I just slowly figure out we're from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And I try to, and I've had this conversation with them, and you try to pinpoint what exactly is that, you know, where is that coming? Like, what makes you an Oklahoman? And it's just hard to pinpoint. It's just who we are. It's like this friendly, we're naturally friendly. We're naturally just want to help.
We're open to new ideas. We're open. I mean, I get that question because we didn't get to touch on music. So we'll have to talk about music down the line. But, you know, people always say, what's in the water? Like all these incredible musicians and talent, you know, and it goes that way with film and music and just people in general. I mean, and so it's just, it's one of our little taglines in our lookbook that we give filmmakers is our locations are only overshadowed by our people. And so it really does, it just kind of goes back to the heart. So you have to come to Oklahoma to meet the people. That's kind of how we want to wrap that up, right?
Yes. And by the way, that's a perfect way to end this. Tava Sofsky, brothers Todd and Alex Greenlee, and Richard James, thank you so much for being a part of this really cool, fun webinar. For everyone at the Journal Record,
Mhm.
including Sarah Barrow, our advertising director, my cat, which has made an appearance, and I'm Joe Dowd. I'm the editor. Stay safe. Good luck.
And come back because Joe, aren't we going to dive in deeper to workforce, infrastructure, and community development related to the film and television industry? And Richard's texting saying, sorry, they're doing something with the electricity, you know, renovations out there. And so he sends his greetings as well.
We'd be happy to follow up on this conversation and explore it in greater depth.
Yeah, that's the plan. All
I
right.
love talking with y'all. This has been fun.
It's great to see you guys, brothers.
Thank
Come
you,
home
everyone.
soon.
Oh, we will. We'll be home.
We will.
We'll be home.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.